I'm joined now by the co-host of the Pivot podcast, Kara Swisher. Kara, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks a lot.
So we have watched as this Epstein situation has kind of bubbled over into the surface. I think that in large part, Trump probably took for granted how seriously a giant faction of his base, especially the online base, took this, and so now I think he thought he can like kind of skate through and just kind of avoid dealing with this whole situation altogether. To what extent do you think that this is going to have a lasting impact on his popularity with those people versus, you know, the usual thing I think we expect from Republicans, which is maybe a few days of some consternation, but ultimately everybody comes
Right.
back home?
That's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, the regular Republicans who are just being quislings, who don't really like what he's doing or don't like a lot of the things, but they're fearful of him, never believe this. So it wasn't really their animating factor. So they'll just stay the same. They'll stay cowardly and acquiescent forever, as long as it takes, until he doesn't have power, and then you'll see some differences, which will
Right.
come. The other ones, the Roseanne Barrs, the Alex Jones, the Laura Loomers, that gang is angry, and they expected a lot more from Cash Patel, especially, and Dan Bongino, who would go on and on about this conspiracy theory. So these are the people that put these people on this almost sugar high of conspiracy theories. And now, when they're like, "Oh, actually, they can't come off of it. Like
Right.
they're deep in the hole." And so I can see why they're disappointed. As crazy as they may be, they're also disappointed. That said, they never seem to blame Trump for this. They're
I've
aiming
seen
at
that.
Bongino and
It's Pam
Bondi, who
Pam
they're called
Bondi, as if
Blondie.
Pam Bondi has shown herself to be like some neutral or independent figure. I mean, all of
Right.
these people are completely under the thumb of Donald Trump.
Right, exactly. I mean, and also she's just been inept. I mean, the ineptitude away from everything by putting these binders out that didn't have anything in them and then saying she had a list because she's such a thirsty person on Fox News. She's got to say something. She needs to shut up. For a lawyer, she talks too much. One of the things she should have been doing was managing expectations here, and saying less. And in this case, they just kind of come out with it in a kind of random, haphazard way, right? Rather than really preparing their group for, look, we looked into it. This is what it is. Let us show you. Let us walk through this. So it's kind of a ham-handed version of it. I mean, ultimately, I suspect they'll go along with Trump, and the crazy ones will nurse anger quietly, and it will manifest later in a sort of a giant open sore. Because they'll not know where to go, because where are they going to go? Once Trump's gone, the Republicans, if they ever get back control of themselves, will not have this group in there. They don't want
Right.
them. So we'll see. I
Well,
feel badly for Roseanne Barr today. I
what do you
don't.
think it says more broadly about like the griftery nature of somebody like Dan Bongino and Cash Patel, who really predicated their identities on
Hmm.
serving this slop to their
Yeah.
audiences, and now they are in these unique positions to be able to substantiate the very things that they were saying for years and
Hmm.
years and years, and they've come up short. I mean, there was a clip on of Cash Patel talking to somebody who works at the Blaze. I can't remember who it was,
Hmm.
but this was in December of 2023, and he was saying that Epstein's black book
Hmm.
was in the hands of the FBI director. That he's like,
Hmm.
this goes right up to the FBI director. That's the person who
Hmm.
has all the power here. Dude is the FBI director right
Right.
now.
Well,
So
that's their
like,
problem. They always do that. They're like, if only someone was in power to do this, like Trump yesterday with, I would have done Doge differently. I was like, if you were in charge, and he was in
right.
charge. Like this
Yeah.
is one of their playbook things. I mean, they've got to be hurting, because this is the gang that first of all, they couldn't shoot straight essentially, but they also train these people to believe in this deep state mentality. And then
Yeah.
when it gets out of control, it gets out of control. I mean, they seem like clods and charlatans. I mean, Dan Bongino's a charlatan, really, in so many ways. He's probably going to be arrested next week for that, but he is.
Yeah. We could share a gulag somewhere.
Whatever. I don't know. Whatever. Good luck, Dan. But I think this is the problem: is they predicated their success, online success. Now, if they can spin up once they leave here, they'll come up with another nonsensical story. Alligators in the toilets in Alcatraz. I don't
Yeah.
know. They're just you have to constantly be telling lies and coming up with new lies to leave behind the old lies. And so that's the problem. The thing is, this group, it's like soap opera. They'll take any lie and they'll move on to the next one. We'll see how much they split from Trump. I mean, they're just terrible people. So they will continue to be hypocritical. And calling them out is kind of like saying, oh, look, the sky is blue.
Building on this idea of these people splintering away from Trump, one
Hmm.
avenue that they might have is that Elon Musk put forward this idea of
Yeah.
starting a third party, and that is the America Party. And
Hmm.
so, how much political capital do you think Elon has? And I guess the more
None.
serious question is, his goal is not to like launch the third major political party in America. He's
No.
come out and said that he wants to just maybe pick off a few House seats
He
and a
wants to be
few
a spoiler.
senators.
He doesn't want to
Correct.
create a party. He wants to be a spoiler, and he's just using that, his money and the name, whatever, to do so. I think the problem is, what does it stand for, right? Like if it's sort of libertarian light kind of thing, there's not much call for that. It's a very small group. If you look at any of the cutting up of the electorate, this is a very small group of people want what he wants, but I don't know what he wants. They haven't articulated. There's no person it's built around except for him. So what are his stances? Like, I don't
Yeah,
know,
I think
pro mecha-Nazi
yeah,
and
Mecha Nazi. That's right.
against
Well, I think the hard part for me to
deficits.
reconcile is he did come in. He had full reign of government. He could have
Mhm.
done anything. Trump isn't looking into
Right.
the weeds of what he's doing. So Elon had
Obviously
full
not.
control, and so he came in saying that he wants to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. You have the Pentagon, which has failed 7 audits, staring you right
Mhm.
in the face, but you avoid that to go after USAID, which is 1/2 of 1% of the budget, and delivers soft power without shooting a single bullet. You've got the CFPB, which helps Americans who've been defrauded by banks. You go after all of these agencies that regulate Elon or have enforcement action
Mhm.
over Elon, and you
Mhm.
ignore the giant elephant in the room. And it goes to show that at the end of the day, this was never about waste, fraud, and abuse. This was about helping Elon's bottom line.
Yeah, well, you just said it. That's it. That's it. He was going after things that helped him. He was very irritated over regulators, especially during COVID, when we were speaking. A little too much. It was a little dramatic and it was a little over the top. But he definitely thought that there was no need for regulators. And when he tangled with before that with the SEC over some of the statements he made, like 420, it's 420 or
Yeah.
whatever. So he's always been sort of like that. And in a lot of ways, he has a point about some of it. Like some of it is onerous. If you've ever opened a small business, you know what it takes to like get all these silly placards you have to put up. And, even Zoran Mandani did a whole thing of $8 halal, and a lot of it was about permitting,
Yeah.
right? That was what that. So there is some argument to be made about making government smoother and services better and cheaper. And there is a lot of, I would say, more waste than fraud, I suspect. And not just waste, it's just inefficient. But at the same time, a lot of government things can't be made efficient the way companies can. And by the way, not every one of his companies is as efficient as could be. They're always seeking more efficiency. Everyone is so surprised by the hypocrisy. All of these people
Yeah.
just want to make money. They're for the shareholders, which is largely themselves in a lot of ways, or their increasing power or their ability to push back from regulation, which is why you see Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos there. You think they like Trump?
Right.
I mean, they can say that he's kind of funnier than Biden, but that's
Right.
that's a low bar. He is, but
Do you think that Musk and Trump reconcile, given the fact that their
no.
fates are so intertwined and the monetary incentives for them to do so are so high?
What's the money? Trump's doing just fine, grifting all the way
Yeah,
away. He
I
doesn't need
suppose he's
Musk.
doubled
He's
his
got the
net worth
side.
in the last like
He's
2 months.
got this.
So
The only thing is, look, Trump could do more harm to Musk than vice versa.
right.
Clearly, around Starlink, around X, around everything about where AI spoils are going, TikTok, like lots of things. That said, he's got a limited time period here. If he loses the midterms, it's over for Trump, right? So he could do a lot of harm to Musk in so many NASA, lots of things. Musk has also an ability to make a mess. What if he's keeping score on the crypto stuff? What if who he could really, he has means to make the Trump's family especially be very uncomfortable. Who knows if he bought the Epstein files? I don't know. Like I don't know. Maybe there are files. Maybe there are videos. I'd be surprised if there weren't, given Jeffrey Epstein's behavior, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's natural. I don't know if there are, but if there are, he could buy them, right? So the only thing about the Epstein thing is like they would have come out by now, wouldn't they have? But maybe not. I don't know. Maybe who knows? So I think Musk is crazy enough to do something crazy, right? And he has the means to do so. And so that's a little different than a Michael Cohen or any of the people that have tangled with Trump. This guy is ready, willing, and able to blow up rockets. And so that's where you go. And when he was fighting with Trump initially. I predicted he would. And then afterwards, he apologized. Everyone's like, oh, he's apologized. The first thing I said is, this is not sticking. This guy is like
Yeah,
friggin' Vesuvius. There's no, only because I had listened to him talk about deficits for years. And so I'm like, no, no, this is right at the heart of his problem with the government is the deficits.
but again, like he had the opportunity to actually
Of
do
course he
something, and he looked
did.
out for
Well,
himself.
did he? Did he have the? He was also in the middle of like a knife fight with all the Trump people. Susie Wiles really did a number. I mean, I'm sorry, they always. That's clearly who took him down, took him
Yeah,
out. But all of them did, like all of them did, because they're all those kind of swamp creatures. But I think sure he could have done something, but it was in his interest not to then, and
right,
now it's in his interest to do so. So Elon will do whatever's in his interest to do
right.
so, and so he is right about EV credits. He is right about we should be promoting EVs versus fossil fuels. There's a number of things where he's 100% correct in terms of fiscal responsibility.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because he did oppose it, even though it benefits him as a billionaire. So there is a modicum of he actually believes this
Well,
stuff.
I think he opposed that provision. If he could do what he did back before Trump even took office in
Tax credit.
December of 2024, where he was able to extract that China provision
Hmm.
from the budget bill that was working its way through before Trump was even sworn in, he was able to put so much pressure on Republicans that
Sure.
they took that provision out. So it's
Hmm.
not that he's looking to sink the entire bill
Hmm.
because he doesn't want a tax cut for himself. He wants everything. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants every
Well,
single provision to benefit him.
speaking of cake, the problem with the bill, and I think it'll be a problem for Democrats' messaging, as I just had Kristen Soltis Anderson on, who's a Republican pollster, is that it's a cheesecake factory of a bill. Which part do you want to hit? It's like
Yeah,
it's a dessert topping, it's a floor wax, it's a tax bill, it's a Medicaid reform bill, it's a Medicaid cut bill. Like so, there's so much in there, and they pulled a lot out. By the way, the lands they were going to sell and this and that. They'll get back to that, by the way.
yeah.
But it'll be the problem is how to attack it. What's the proper? It's such a ridiculous cheesecake factory of a bill, as Kristen calls it.
You had mentioned, the Zuckerbergs of the world and how they'll say whatever they need to say. And we've seen that to a broader degree with regard to how these media outlets are capitulating to Trump. The
Hmm.
latest to do so was CBS and
Yeah,
Paramount for editing for time an interview on television, which has been standard practice forever, and yet
correct.
they used any opportunity they could to settle because they have this Skydance merger that's pending. And so, can I have your reaction just more broadly
Oh,
to
I'm with
this
all.
kind of
I'm with the whole
capitulation?
60 Minutes team. I mean, Steve Croft was just on Jon Stewart. It's a shakedown. It's a shakedown. That's all
Yeah.
it is. And they wanted to do the deal. Trump has said, "I'll hold it up." What are you going to do? I mean, they just sit there and they go, "Huh." We settle now. In some cases are settled as a nuisance. It's a nuisance lawsuit, and the nuisance is between Sherry Redstone and her 2.4 billion or whatever she's getting. The thing is, the price of this thing has gone down a lot. She's lost quite a few billion by just waiting to do this. She should have done it during the Biden administration, by the way, because it would have been a higher price and she wouldn't have this situation going
Yeah.
on. So she's stuck in having it pass. If it doesn't, it's a disaster for Paramount. If it doesn't happen, so she gets it'll go from 2 billion to 1 billion to keep going down, and it'll be sold for parts. And
Well,
so
what do you make more broadly of this idea, though, that like these are these purported defenders of democracy? Like you've got Washington Post, Democracy Dies in Darkness. You've got all of these news networks, the esteemed Fourth Estate, and when
yeah.
they have the opportunity, like they can stand behind these flashy slogans when none of them are challenged. But the moment they're actually challenged, the fact that they are folding one by one, we've seen ABC News,
Yeah.
we've seen CBS and Paramount in this scenario, we've seen the LA Times, we've seen the Washington Post, and so like, what, I mean, isn't there
Well,
some major? How did none of these
no.
people who work in the news business
Well, no, no,
recognize
no.
the
The
damage
news
that they're
business
doing?
people don't have control over this. Let's be clear. I mean, the only thing they can do is quit, right? And
Yeah,
two of them did at CBS. Two big jobs. They quit big jobs
yeah,
and long time jobs, by the way. Andy McMahon and the other guy, Bill, whatever his name is. So they quit. Like, there's no power by the journalists. They can get all angry and stamp their feet, but you're talking about Sherry Redstone and Jeff Bezos
yeah.
Yeah, all of them. They don't care. They don't care. This is something I've told you a million. They don't care. They care about money.
Yeah.
They care about getting theirs. And they don't like media in particular. Whenever one of them would say that to me, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like they don't. Like there's very few of them. Right now, I would say Lorraine Powell Jobs at The Atlantic. She's getting a lot of incoming over the work that Jeff Goldberg is helming. She's sticking to it, it looks like. We'll see. I mean, if she gets enough pressure, I suppose, but they can't pressure her as much, right? She's super rich and she doesn't have a lot of pressure points. But if they did, they would push on them. But there's certain owners that are better than others, right? And there's owners that are okay. That's been the history of media. And then there's owners like Katharine Graham of the Washington Post, who was, she was wealthy, she was in society, she could have gone a totally different direction. And because she's a baller, she did the right thing because she cared, but she certainly could have gone in a very different direction than
Yeah.
she did. And the only thing to do for the media people is quit, right? And that's why I own all my stuff. I'm like, who?
Yeah.
Let me consult my CEO, Kara Swisher. Oh, yes, I feel like,
Yeah.
like whatever. You just say these people want Sherry Redstone wants her. I know Sherry. I'm so disappointed in her. Not that I thought that she was going to be that firm a supporter anyway, but I think she wants hers. I guess just like Jeff Bezos. I mean, Jeff Bezos is the perfect example. He was very much supportive of the Washington Post for many years, or just didn't do anything. And he got attacked in the first Trump administration, and he said, "I'm not having that happen again." And
Yeah.
meanwhile, he has a new relationship, and he's sort of changed, or not, well, whatever. He's changed, and so now he has a different attitude towards this stuff.
Do you think that okay, so you look at a situation like CBS where, of course, they edited this interview for time. Trump did the same thing. I mean, we're talking about the Epstein stuff. Fox literally edited the line of questioning for television that they gave him, where they were like, "Are you going to release the JFK files? Are you going to release?" I forgot
Yes, of course.
whatever the other one.
They didn't make a mistake.
And
Like,
then he said, "Are you going to release the Epstein files?" And he goes, "Yeah, maybe not so much that one, but they edited that out." And so, do you think that there's a world in which Democrats should, sack up, start to grow a spine, and say, okay, if you're gonna sue over that, why don't we have anybody coming out and suing for the same thing under the Trump rule, the Trump precedent?
Well, I think that this is a quick ride to nowhere, right? And this kind of stuff. And I think if Democrats engage in that, we're going to get it for bribery. They're not. They're just not. Look, they may, but for what? For what? What purpose is it just because you win? The same thing with actually if they win the midterms. I just did a good interview with Robert Garcia, who will be the head of the Oversight Committee. And
Yeah.
it's very clear they've got to look at the crypto scams that the Trump family is doing. That's very front and center. And that means a lot for all of the next president's family, the next president's family. And so that's important. But the plane, must we? Like, I know a lot of liberals want to go, let's get him for that. It's like, let's win. Let's not, like, there's no, what will be the benefit from doing that? The best case scenario is the crypto stuff, which is really problematic and
Yeah.
corrupt. And so be very careful about, I hate to tell it to all your liberal watchers, is you may not get Donald Trump. He may die with all this money and not retribution. And you're going to have to live with it and hope that somewhere he will, right? And so, everyone was like, now he's going to jail. No, he didn't, right?
It's Mueller time.
Yeah, you may have to accept the fact that this guy has squirreled out of all manner of corruption and illegal behavior, including, was it sexual abuse? I want to say that correctly, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. You may have to accept that. I know you're all going to go, no, we can't. It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to win, or do you want to what? Like
try to seek retribution against this guy who's
just
hopefully
if Nelson Mandela could move along, the rest of us can in a lot of ways. And I'm not suggesting that, because some of it, like especially the crypto stuff, absolutely should be investigated. It's really squirrely, and it allows foreign entities to bribe our presidents.
Right.
That we really do need to deal with that, no matter who the president is.
I mean, even as Donald Trump sits down with the leaders of a few African nations, they know exactly. I mean, it's so pathetic. They know exactly how to give him how to give him the pats on the head that he's looking for. They're all offering him the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, it's so sad the extent to which it's so easy to game the president of the United States. And if the tables were turned, if somebody was like, if all it took to manipulate Joe Biden was like, here's an ice cream cone, and Joe Biden would be like, oh, this is great. We're going to have to strike up some great deals with your country, with Liberia. I mean, the right would lose its collective mind.
Yes, but you have to stop doing that. I know Obama did that. Like, what if I did? Like, who cares?
Yeah,
They're terrible.
I know.
Like they're terrible people. Like,
Okay,
what do you
well,
want? You won't do it because you're not a terrible person. And so the issue is, do you want to be right or do you want to be effective?
Yeah.
Right? And you're right, but it doesn't really matter. Like, do you want to be indignant or do you want to be effective? You can be indignant, but what do you want? And I think that's what Democrats have to start thinking about. What do we want? Like, and which is power, obviously, and getting bills that they like, that the Democrats like better. And if they spend all their time, I did a really interesting interview with someone I really admire, Sarah McBride, who gets like so much incoming from those terrible Nancy Mace and Marjorie, the two harpies.
Has only carried herself with class and
class.
grace.
It says almost nothing about it because you know what? She was elected by all the people of Delaware, and therefore that's how she behaves. If she centered everything on her trans identity, and I know a lot of trans people think she should, she's not doing the job she was voted in for. And so one of the things she said, she wasn't like compromising. What she was saying is, we're going to have imperfect allies, and you're going to have to accept that, right? You're going to have to forgive that. I get a lot of incoming because I used to like Elon Musk. Well, too fucking bad. He was pretty fantastic back then and now isn't. So we're going to have to like really abandon the indignance, although it definitely can power you to get to things and be more. I'm really fascinated by Mandami because he's a very jolly fella. He doesn't feel retribution.
It felt like the beginning of the first days of Kamala's campaign.
Right, or whatever.
And the entirety of Obama's campaign, to be honest.
Right. And I think it's if you're going to start a war, you should dig two graves. It just is. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the situation. And then later, history will judge these people, and badly, from Elon Musk or Donald Trump, and we will know that. And I think we've got to figure out what's effective to win the midterm elections, and then what are we going to do for the American people? That's, to me, is what we have to talk about. $25 minimum wage. I met with a senator last night, and I was like, you gotta stop. Stop. Just what do you want to do? Let me hear what you want to do. And so he was not, I would say he was not a Mamdani. He's a Democrat, but not a Mamdani fan. And I said, why don't you watch these? And I gave him 10 videos. And I was like, you need to see what he's doing here, which is much more effective than, wringing your hands all the time.
Well, to that point, and we'll finish off with this, who are you looking at? I mean, we have a deep bench on the left, and we need a deep bench on the left because as we engage in what I very much hope will be an entire cycle of generational change and moving out the old guard, hopefully eliminating the gerontocracy that has completely enveloped the Democratic Party. Who's caught your eye, especially as we head toward 2028?
Let's keep in mind, 70 people in Congress are over 70 years old, or 80, something like. Most of them are Democrats. Let's be clear.
100%,
So one of the things I think is important is people start to look at people who are, they don't have to be young necessarily, by the way. They just have to be effective. Yeah. And I think the question is, what's really a problem is are we going to be left? Are we going to be right? Well, you know what? Abby Spanberger should be what's right for Virginia to be governor.
I say all the time,
not like
Jared Golden is not going to win in AOC's district, and she's not going to win in his.
Correct. So be who you are, where you are, and then come together and try to find common ground for the things you want to pass. But there's no way the Democrats look over in the right. There's the beginning for the beginning. There's the crazy conspiracy theorists. There's the America First. There's the racists. Then there's them. And then there's Marco Rubio standing there looking like he's having an aneurysm at any moment. So and willing to be a quisling. So. Which he wants because he wants to be president. Again, why? Everyone's like, why is Mario doing this? I'm like, he wants to be president. And they're like, but why? And I'm like, because he wants to be president. It's so simple if you just look at what they want. And in the case of Musk, he wants power. And in the case of Trump, he wants money and power. And so,
Well, going back, who are you looking at? What names interest you?
Obviously Wes Moore gets a lot of attention. I'm very impressed with him. I did a recent interview with him. The typical ones among politicians: Josh Shapiro, I suppose Pritzker. I doubt Gretchen Whitmer will be as big a factor. I suspect Amy Klobuchar will wander around into because she really wants to run the country, I think, pretty much, which is fine. Newsom, clearly.
Yeah.
I like, everyone's looking at Andy Bashir, but I was so impressed by Laura Kelly from Kansas. I don't know why. I just really liked her whole thing. And then there's all kinds of interest. I mean, AOC, you can't count her out. She's she's one of the most gifted politicians in very similarities with Trump. Same, not in terms of policy, but in charisma, style, communication skills. Mondani definitely has that. And of course, he's early. He's a little early.
Right.
Any
non-political? Any like Mark Cubans
well,
out
Mark
there?
Cuban.
Yeah.
I always bug him. I always like, are you running yet? No. He would tell me if he was. He would hedge it, but he hasn't hedged it once with me. So, I mean, he'd be a really interesting candidate. We were joking he should run as a Republican and see just to drive them fucking crazy.
Yeah. Kara, where can folks who are watching and listening see and hear more from you?
Oh, Pivot, with Scott Galloway, who is very wise too, and on with Kara Swisher. So.
Excellent. Well, I would highly recommend it. I just listened to your latest episode of Pivot last night with Scott, and it's always
funny.
Wonderful. So highly recommend for anybody who's watching and listening
Scott's
right now.
in Ibiza. I am not.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, you're here with us, so we appreciate it. Kara, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks.